Hey everyone, welcome to our lesson on sampling distributions. When you start dealing with data and statistics and you start trying to gather some information from a survey or other type of experiment, you need to be aware of the different types of samples that you can get. So we're going to go over those first and talk about examples of each one. So let's start that now. So one type of sample that you can use when you're trying to gather data and use it to make predictions about a population is just a simple random sample. And always the more random that you can be in using your samples, the better, the more accurate the results that you'll get. So simple random sample just means that everyone has an equally likely chance of being selected. So we don't know who we're selecting. We're not favoring one group or another. It's totally random. You could also use some kind of systematic approach and have a systematic sample where it's still pretty random. You don't know who's going to be chosen, but you've got some system for choosing them, such as maybe every 5th person in the phone book or every 30th person on the voter registration list or something like that. You might also want to use what's called a stratified sample, and that's where you divide your population into groups and then you randomly select members from each group. So first divide into groups and then randomly select from there. You may also want to use a cluster sample. The only difference between a cluster sample and the stratified that we just saw is that you will divide your population into groups, but then every member from certain groups will be used. So we'll take a look at an example of that one in just a minute. Convenience sample, that is going to be you using whoever's around you at the time, whoever's convenient to get results from. Maybe you're sitting at the front of a store and you just survey the first 10 people that come up to you and come in the store for some type of data that you want to find out about. You might also want to use a self-selected sample, and that's where you're going to have only volunteers are the ones that participate in your survey. So those are just some of the different types of samples that you'll have to decide which is the most appropriate method for what you're trying to find out about. All right, so we're going to practice. After seeing all those types, we're going to see if we can classify a sample given a description. So let's take a look at this example. So let's suppose that our school newspaper wants to know whether students prefer school dances on Friday nights or Saturday nights. And to get some results here, they first surveyed 10 freshmen, 10 sophomores, 10 seniors, and 10 juniors. So what type of sample would this be based on all the descriptions that we saw earlier? Well, we can see that we are first grouping them by class. So we're first sectioning off a group of freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, and then we're randomly selecting 10 from each group. So when you first divide your population into groups and then randomly select from each group, that is going to be our stratified. Okay? So we just have to practice this and see examples and learn how to identify which type we're dealing with, because we may be asked about this. Okay, I wanted to show you here, based on the ones we've gone over, depending on your situation, you'll want to figure out which one's most appropriate for your situation, but typically these are going to be the layout of how accurate your samples are going to be. So a census, which is everybody in the population gets asked. The whole population gets asked the questions on the survey and the results come in. Census is everybody, so that of course is going to be the most accurate, but we can't always get to every single person in our population. It's not always possible for us to do that. So the other types are typically what's used. And the simple random, the stratified, and the cluster, those are going to be your more accurate ways to get data, to gather data from a survey. And then the less accurate ways are the convenience and the self-selected. And that's just because when you're dealing with convenience, whoever's around you at the time, or self-selected, when volunteers are the only ones that participate, other groups may be underrepresented. So that's why those could be less accurate. All right, so we've seen sort of the layout of the accuracy of these methods. So let's evaluate this situation here. Let's figure out what would be the best thing for us to use in this scenario. Let's say a local TV station wants to report on the town's opinion of the new school in town. So we've got a new school that's been built, and this particular town, we know, we're given this information, is 70% female. So that means it's 30% male. Which method would be the most or the least accurate of collecting a report on the opinion of the new school? Should we use method A, randomly selecting 50 males and 50 females from the town? Do you think we should use method B, which is to survey 10 randomly selected students who are in the library at forced lunch? Or do you think we should use method C, which is selecting randomly 100 people from our phone book? So let's discuss these and see what we think. So method A was 50 males and 50 females. Okay, so let's think about this. We are randomly selecting members from the town, but if you remember, they told us that our town is 70% female. So in this case, if we take exactly as many males in our survey as females, then our females will actually be underrepresented because they make up a larger portion of our population in the town. So let's keep that in mind as we're evaluating. For method B, we are randomly selecting 10 students, but keep in mind we're wanting the whole town's opinion. So this method is only asking students, and it's even getting more specific than that. It's only asking students who are in the library during fourth period. So it's a very small group of people from the town. Method C was randomly selecting 100 people from the phone book. So we don't know who we're going to get there. So we can see that definitely method C is going to be probably the best way to go here. It's very random, and as always, the more random of a selection you can have, the better. So I'm going to say this is probably going to be our most accurate way of getting results on the opinion and predicting that for the opinion of the whole town. And although method A does have females underrepresented slightly, I would rank that higher than method B, considering that's just a tiny specific group of people. We wouldn't want to make a prediction on our whole town based on just a small group of students, one age group, in one location during a particular part of the day. So we can say that that is probably going to be our least accurate way just for this particular situation, and this would be more accurate, but not the most, because remember method C is the most. All right, so you'll just have to take these and you'll have to read about situations and evaluate which one is going to be the best for your particular situation. So knowing about all the different types assists you in doing that. So this concludes our lesson on sampling distributions.